My name is Ramesh. I am the CEO of Africa Improved Foods. I am based in Kigali. The business is a social business largely meant to create impact in malnutrition. So what we do is battle malnutrition in children and pregnant women and the whole family as well, but the primary focus is children and pregnant women. All right. So what we are trying to do is produce high nutrition food primarily from raw material that we locally buy and make it available to people like the World Food Program, the Red Cross, UNICEF. All right. Now you know that about 400 million people in Africa are without incomes. They largely depend on people like Red Cross, UNICEF, World Food Program for their food. And our supplies to these agencies ensures that these people try and get some food at least. Okay. Now there have been challenges in the recent past wherein the Red Cross and the World Food Program, etc., are very poorly funded on account of the various challenges that are going on around in the world. And therefore I'm quite sure the people who look forward to food from them are struggling. But our job as a company is to either make it available through these agencies or to put it out in the local market commercially and price it in a manner where the lowest earning income group who earns between $2 and $6 a day is able to afford this product. Our objective is to ensure that as many people suffering from malnutrition are able to access our product as possible. Okay, so that's what Africa Improved Foods does. Prior to this, I used to work for a company called Olam International, which, as you know, is a giant in agriculture in Africa. And we were impacting the plantation sector, so which means we had plantations of our own, and we were in the supply chain of agricultural produce, we were in trading of agricultural produce, and we were also adding value. So the cocoa sector, for example, in Ivory Coast had significant investments of Olam where conversion of cocoa beans to cocoa butter and cocoa liquor was going on. Right? That then went to the chocolate industry, not necessarily in Africa, but in other parts of the world. So a variety of such interventions were already put in place by Olam through significant capital investment. So with a balance sheet of about $6 to $7 billion on the African continent, Olam's commitment in African farming and African agriculture is very, very significant. I managed Olam's interest first in West Africa and then in South Africa and East Africa. And we set up coffee plantations in Zambia and Tanzania. We set up rice plantations in Nigeria and Mozambique, and similar such commitments across Africa in agriculture and food. So that's where I've spent all my life.
Tell us about what you are exactly doing as Africa Improved Food and any success stories and challenges and way forward.
Yeah, so I must say that the policymakers of Rwanda have been extremely positive and extremely supportive, and for that reason, the impact that Africa Improved Foods has in Rwanda is quite significant. Today we are impacting 1.6 million people per day. All right. The founders' objective is to battle malnutrition across Africa. That means a significantly bigger number. We are in the process of raising capital for expanding our growth into Ethiopia, and you know Ethiopia has a population in excess of 100 million and a lot of people who are struggling with malnutrition. Our view is that if we set up something in Ethiopia, we'll be able to reach a lot more people than we are currently today sitting in Rwanda. I must though say that what we produce in Rwanda goes via the IFC and the Red Cross, goes into South Sudan, into DRC, into Uganda, into Ethiopia, which they carry. Okay. But if we are in Ethiopia, we can then service all of Ethiopia by itself. So our Rwanda factory will continue to produce, and the Ethiopia factory will then start taking care of Ethiopia by itself. That's our objective. Policymaker support in general is very essential for the food and agri sector. One, because it is employing such a large proportion of the population. Number two, because it's a sensitive sector, and policymakers' consistency in thinking is very critical for it to succeed. So any investor who goes into agriculture and food processing requires committed, long-term policymaker support.
Okay, tell us briefly about Africa Improved Foods. Who are the shareholders and the amount of investment you plan to invest in Ethiopia?
So a significant Dutch company called the Royal DSM is the largest shareholder of Africa Improved Foods. the IFC, and FMO, which is the Development Fund of the Netherlands, are the three shareholders of Africa Improved Foods. We are currently talking to a few other development banks in Europe for our expansion plans into Ethiopia, Nigeria, etc. That conversation is going on as we speak.
I mean, how much are you planning to
Oh,
invest?
sorry. Yes, we are in Rwanda. Our investment is $65 million. In Ethiopia, we're looking for $35 to $40 million. But we have a significantly larger plan for Nigeria. So there we'll be looking for $100 million plus.
What exactly do you plan to do in Ethiopia?
We set up a plant. The engine room of our business is the plant. It is the best food processing plant in Africa, and we want to replicate that in Ethiopia. So the food processing plant that we put up will cost us $35-40 million.
Then you also talk about coffee, maybe?
No coffee.
Okay.
We are only producing nutritious food for Africa Improved Foods.
Okay. Thank you so much. Is there anything that you would like to summarize?
Yes, I think consistency of the policymakers' mindset is a very essential part of success stories. And government should be clear that working towards food security, working towards employment, working towards import substitution, and working towards upskilling are all critical parts of how countries can progress.